to the Level Up and Live podcast, where we uncover the stories and strategies of extraordinary individuals who are leveling up in their lives and careers. I'm your host, Sean Myers, joined by my co-host, Ewan Heinemeier. And today, we have the privilege of speaking with the incredibly talented Rene Bowen. Rene is not just your average professional photographer and coach. With an eye for luxury branding and high-end photography, she's mastered the art of turning passion into profit. But her expertise doesn't stop there. Rene's mission is to empower others to thrive in both business and life. Join us as we dive into Rene's unique approach to mindset techniques and creative entrepreneurship. Get ready to be inspired and equipped with the tools you need to transform your passions into successful ventures.
Rene Bowen, welcome to the show. So grateful that you came on. You are a prolific, professional, award-winning photographer. And so a lot of people might hear that and be like, well, I'm not in photography. But the more, within just a few minutes before, when you're about to speak here, any entrepreneur, business owner is going to hear just immense amounts of value that you're about to pour out into their lives that's going to help their business, whether in photography or not. If you have a business or a product that you sell, this is an episode that you're going to get so much from. Rene, you're a coach. You have your own business. You just mentioned it, Hypnosis, NLP, and you have Paid Mastermind. You have a whole bunch of a big community, the whole thing. Like, you've got that all set up. You're so experienced, and this is not just something you discovered a few months ago and you're rolling into. And so I'm very excited about this. If you could just tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll jump into it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is super cool. Yeah, I have been in this space for a while. Like you said, I've been a photographer for many, many years, like back when, film was our only option, even before digital cameras. So I've been a photographer for a really long time. And I sort of fell into coaching, not really planning to do it. I already had this like really awesome, thriving business. And all of a sudden people started asking me like how I was doing that, how I was able to make money as a photographer and all of these different things. I didn't realize I was good at business until I got into it, really. And I guess I'm one of those creatives, I think, that, has both sides of the brain sort of working. And I have a degree in psychology. So I think my first love was always really working with people and connecting. And I always told people that photography for me, and portrait photography, because that's what I, specialize in, is really about people. It's a people job, like you have to be good at what you do, but it's a people job. And so I kind of leaned into people asking me these questions about how I do what I do. And it just led me down this path. And I realized pretty early on that really what they needed help with wasn't really just their business. It was really their mindset, getting out of their own way, figuring out how to, create good habits, whatever it is, to like kind of just move through all the resistance and the imposter syndrome that creatives have. And so I got certified in some other things like NLP and, like you said, hypnosis. And I've just really I geek out on all things, unconscious mind and neuroscience and things like that. So I love learning about all that and bringing that to my community as well. So yeah, so I basically run two businesses essentially, and I'm doing this coaching, and I have courses for photographers. I have, like you said, groups and masterminds, free and paid, for many years now. And it just, and now I have a podcast. So yeah, it's been really fun.
Beautiful.
Awesome. Rene, I'm curious. I heard you say coaching. And so I do coaching. I've been doing it for, 12, 18 months now. And one of the things that I really enjoy doing is that one-on-one mentorship. I just see the biggest impact, and it allows me to come alive and really help them and mold, personalize, what it is that they're looking for. And what's interesting to me is what I have found with these one-on-one coaching is they have similar struggles. I'm curious with you, when you coach these individuals, what would you say the biggest struggle that they run into that you help, and how do you help them overcome that struggle?
Yeah. Well, in most of my coaching, like I said, most of my coaching clients are photographers, but not all, but they are, creatives of some kind. And I think that one of the biggest things that I see my community really struggling with is that pricing, standing in their worth, like really realizing there's something about, I don't know if it's just all creatives. I think it's a very big running theme of, well, this is kind of easy for me and I'm good at it. And I feel guilty for charging for it because it feels fun, right? Because we're programmed to like believe that things should be hard and you should be, yeah, it's a lot of work and it takes years to get really good at what you do, and that's important. But there's another piece to it, and it's really that self value, that self worth, standing in it and not letting imposter syndrome and limiting beliefs really kind of keep you from basically giving people what they came to you for, right? Like, so these people are coming to you for this, and then you feel guilty about charging for them. So that's a really big thing that I see my community struggle with. And the way that I help them move through that, because I think, first of all, we have to realize that when anything comes up like that, any kind of trigger, I'm a really big believer that it's an opportunity if you choose to look at it that way, right? Like, a lot of people don't want to look at it and they run away from it. The more you run away from anything, the bigger it gets, right? Whatever we resist persists. So you got to turn around and look at it. You just, that's really the first thing, is to just stop and go, okay, yeah, that's happening. And it takes its power away. Like, you get your power back when you stand in that and just acknowledge that that's going on. And then there's some really cool stuff that can happen if you choose to look deeper and go, okay, well, what about this do I need to know? Like, what is deeper in that? And you'll follow the cues along the way with that, so that you get to this place of, okay, yeah, this is obviously coming up for a reason. It's usually some unconscious programming that we've been programmed with against our will, right? As kids, because we all are, and it sticks with us. And so this is our opportunity, if we choose to, you know, take action on it, because it's all a choice, is to decide whether we're going to move through it, make peace with it, and change it and shift it. And the thing is that it doesn't have to take as long as people think, right? So we have this connotation, I guess, of, well, change takes a long time, and it can, but it can also change like overnight.
Renee, what some of the
So
key elements of that, of like, because what you're saying right there is, yeah, when do you go from where they're imposter syndrome to, okay, now I'm good? Because there's this sequence of decisions, thought processes, steps. How what have you seen from your experience, like when someone's done it very quickly? Like, what have they done well? Was it they had less to deal with, or was it that they just transformed their brain that quickly? Like, what were some of the key elements you'd say that you've seen?
yeah, well, when you really make that it's like the decision and then you take that action, right? Because it's all scary. You have, like, obviously, whenever you do this sort of thing, it's going to bring up a lot of, charged emotions and all kinds of stuff. The key is that you want to kind of get neutral about it. You kinda wanna just get to this place of like, "Oh, that's interesting," and not beat yourself up. Because if you continue to beat yourself up about the fact that you're dealing with this, or, because some people have a really loud inner saboteur, and it's nasty, right? Like, some people just really deal with that in a bigger way, let's say, than some other people. And so that can be really hard. That can be really hard to battle. But when you are able to get to this neutral space of just looking at it for just what it is, not a big charged emotion, that can lead you through it a lot faster, I have found. And hypnosis is definitely a tool that works really well for that, because it works directly with your unconscious to reprogram that. And you can work with someone with, one-on-one like that, or you can listen to tracks. Like, I do both of those things with clients, and, create specific things. I've also just have generic tracks, about specific issues like imposter syndrome and like anxiety. And so the more you sort of train your brain to do what you want it to do, and not allow your unconscious to drive the car, basically, and you like put it in the trunk, you get back in the driver's seat, that can actually happen really fast. But you can't just think it. Nothing really happens. You can't logic your way through it, right? You just tend to overthink and lead to more anxiety about it. So you really have to become that. You have to really feel it. It's a mind-body connection for sure.
Mm. Man, and people are dealing with all that whilst they're building a business, which if they're new to business, that's like they're dealing with two overwhelming situations there, because you could be totally good on the mental side and you just never done business before. And you had mentioned that that you had just found yourself just being good at business. You're in psychology, but then you just found yourself being good at that. What would you say some of the key elements of being good at business are? Because there's a lot of business owners out there, and I think missing a lot of the basics, perhaps, and that's why there's so much struggle. Like, and maybe not, it's the nuances and whatnot. But what would you consider being good at business? When you said that, it hit my ear. Like, I believe you.
Well, I mean, there's so many aspects to it that I think a lot of people, especially creatives, don't really think about when they sort of like step into this, because most creatives, especially photographers that I've seen, they happen to be good at something. Somebody tells them along the way, you should do this, and they just sort of do it. And we don't really, most of them anyway, not all, don't really have that planning ahead of time. Like, okay, well, this is actually going to be a business. What is my actual goal? What are these things that will move you forward a lot faster. So I guess the main thing I think, as far as like the business aspect, obviously, is knowing how to sell. Because if you are, there's systems and, efficiency, and we can talk about all of that and how important all of those things are, but you can hire out for a lot of that stuff as well. But you have to know how to sell, because if you are a business, you're in sales. And a lot of people don't really understand that. And there's so much negative connotation about sales because we have been taught all of these things. But the truth is that you sell all the time, right? You sell where you want to go to dinner to your spouse all the time. You sell things to your kids all the time. So there's a way to look at sales as service, and to really put yourself in from a heart-centered place, and not and to rewire those things that you've probably been taught that were like not good.
Mhm. Definitely.
So I've heard the word hypnosis, and you've brought it up a couple times. If I'm being completely transparent, in 37 years, and we may have some listeners that are listening to this, like, I've heard hypnosis, but I don't know what it is. I'm one of those guys. Can you explain what hypnosis
Uh-huh.
is, and how that can help business owners, entrepreneurs, and how you help your clients?
Yeah. Yeah, we all have this, again, like, these preconceived notions of things. Like, you might hear about hypnosis and think of like somebody on a stage, doing some like group hypnosis or whatever, like a stage act. But it's really not like that. And so it's about really just reprogramming those unconscious triggers that we were talking about, right? Like those things that get stuck in us as kids usually. So our unconscious mind is super powerful. It is basically running the show like 90% of the time. I think the statistic is we think our conscious mind is running it, but it's not. And so it's really important to make sure your unconscious mind is on board with what your conscious mind wants to be doing. But most of the time, a lot of us aren't living that way. We are already sort of living hypnotically, because like, you have ever driven somewhere, you get there and you're like, how did I get here? That's a really good, sort of example of the fact of how easy it is to go into trance. Like, we go into trance all the time. Trance is a very natural state for us. It's where we get downloads and, inspiration and imagination. And when you use hypnosis intentionally, you are using trance in that way to get to that deeper part of your unconscious mind, to rewire those beliefs at a deeper level. Because basically, before the age of 7 is when our unconscious mind is just doing all the work. It's soaking in all the information and all the things around us. That's its job. Its job is to learn. But unfortunately, we suck in all the stuff, not just the good stuff. And some people have a lot of bad stuff that happens before that age. And it can tend to get really stuck in there. And it doesn't have to be really, really bad. It could just be something as simple as hearing your parents say, money doesn't grow on trees, or rich people, wealthy people are evil, or whatever it is. Something will get stuck in there. and then it'll continue to run that program. You kind of think of it like a computer program, right? It'll run that program until you intercept it and you run a program to get rid of it. And that's basically what I like to think of hypnosis like. It's like a cheat code for your personal development, because meditation is amazing, and I love meditation. I think that everyone should meditate. It is definitely highly beneficial for so many things. But hypnosis is a little different because you really are just sort of moving aside and letting the person, if you're working one-on-one with someone, or letting the track that you're listening to, letting that really just do the work for you. You just don't really have to do anything. I like to listen to hypnosis when I'm at rest, before I go to sleep, when I'm, laying in a hot bath, but you can listen to them like when you're editing photos, let's say. Like, a lot of my clients will just put in earbuds and listen to some tracks, because you're going to be doing other things with your brain anyway during that time, right? Like, if you don't have to do any focus work, as long as you're not driving or trying to focus, you can basically listen to a hypnosis track. Because I lay mine anyway. I lay mine over binaural beats as well, because I'm really big on all of that as well, because, why not get a double whammy of awesomeness? And, I like to lay them over theta brainwaves, because theta brainwaves are super creative and it gets you into a flow state. So there's a lot of ways you can use it. A lot of people think that, oh my gosh, I'm not going to have any control. And, what are you putting into my brain? It's nothing like that. You have 100% control. You're not like a zombie. It doesn't turn you into anything, weird or different. It's just a fast track to working with your unconscious and rewiring that stuff that you want to change.
I believe in all that. I've done the binaural beats, and I was like, this sounds crazy. And even hypnosis too. I did it one time, and I thought, there's no way, my brain is too sharp, it's too fast. There's no way anyone can hypnotize me, because I've seen on stage some people, like, they
Yeah.
can't be hypnotized, but that's not what, like, exactly what you
No.
said. That's not what that is.
Yeah.
This is like, I remember coming out of the hypnosis, and wasn't sure if I had, but then I just felt this weight, like I was just smiling,
Mm-hmm.
and I was just like,
Mm-hmm.
felt like I was floating. Like, I just felt so at peace, and everything just seemed calm and clear, and it was phenomenal. And the binary beats meditation. It's funny. Me and Sean are two people that you'd never, like. It was very hard for us to learn how to meditate. I think, like, Sean, you probably tried a bunch of times. I remember, for me too, I was like, this stuff does not work. But for years, I just kept at it, and then I remember that moment of,
Mm-hmm.
oh my goodness, like, this is what they've been talking about all this time, and it was very addictive, and it's been huge. So you said all that, like, and you do it yourself. Do you listen to your own
Mm-hmm.
hypnosis, or do you listen to somebody else's? And how do you know what to work on? Because you're so in tune with what is going on in the brain, and so, being a human being, you're still going to have things that pop up. Like, how do you catch that and then do something about it? And how could you translate that to the audience to catch the thing that they don't even know exists? A lot of people might be listening to this and think, that doesn't apply to me. Like you say, a little bit of woo, but
Yeah.
it's real stuff. This is like, the world is vibrations. That's just a fact, science. And yeah, how do you catch it, and then what do you do, and then how could you translate that to someone that has never heard of this before, and use it?
Yeah, no, it definitely can seem super woo to people, but really, you're right. It's science. There's so much science to back all of this up, which I love. And I do feel like there has to be, first of all, there has to be that desire to change, right? Like, obviously, if someone, if you even have an inkling, well, first of all, if you're listening to this, it's probably meant for you, right? Like, I'm a really big believer in that. Like, if you're listening to something and you happen, like, you're like, whoa, I've never heard of that, there's probably a good chance you were meant to hear that. I'm a big believer that, what's meant to find us will find us.
Agreed.
And so if it piques your interest, lean in. That's the first thing, is just look at it and say, okay, well, that's cool. That's interesting. I wonder what's there for me, right? Because when we start asking our unconscious mind or ourselves these questions of, I wonder I wonder what is going on with this thing that I'm dealing with. Like, what's that about? Like, just get curious about it. Because for me, and like what you were saying, asking me in particular, I I think I've just sort of trained myself over the years because I've been on this like sort of personal development journey for many, many years. The more you do it, right, the easier it gets, just like anything else. And so you train yourself to look for the things that are going to help you level up, right? So if that something is popping up, you can choose to look the other way, or you can choose to go, huh, that's interesting. And that's really what I like to just remind people to do, is just to look at it as a neutral observer and just find it interesting and see where that takes you. Because, chances are there's something underneath that. Chances are, if you're triggered about something, for sure, like if something is really causing a charged emotion and it's really something that keeps repeating itself, right? Over and over again. Like, why can't I just, and if you find yourself saying the same things in your head, why can't I just do this? Or why can't I just, that's probably a good indication that there's something that you can for sure work on there. And so, yeah, I listen to my own tracks. I'll create some of my own. I listen to other things as well, like, teachers of mine. Um, I think that it really depends on where you are with this journey. If you're just new to this, it's really helpful. Like you were saying before, meditation and hypnosis can both be really difficult for people with very active brains because you think that you're supposed to be paying attention. But just take the pressure off yourself, first of all, because the whole point is that you're not supposed to be doing anything.
Could
You're
you speak to
literally
that,
just,
Renee, real quick?
yeah,
You said I never heard that before, and you just said that the brain is so it thinks it's supposed to be paying attention. That's
yeah.
very true for me. Like I have ADHD, and so I can laser focus as a superpower, but it means I don't focus on a lot of things. I remember in school and other situations, if I'm not engaged, I'm off thinking about how could you build a rocket ship out of toothpicks? Like it's possible in my mind. I'm like, oh, you could do that, but then I've completely missed what's been talked about, and so that means to me, I always need to be paying attention, focused. What is that about? Like, how do you?
Yeah.
Because I know that's got to be hindering me somewhere. Because that means I wouldn't be in that state.
Yeah, a lot of people with ADHD have that issue. So many of my clients, are neurodiverse. Like we're creatives. Like that's part of our superpower, like you said. Like, but we weren't really told that that was a superpower as a kid. Chances are, unless you were really lucky enough to have parents that allowed you to be who you were supposed to be and meant to be. Most of us were sort of like beaten down by the school system, sit in your desk, blah, blah, blah. You're not supposed to do this. So, yeah, we have some undoing to work on as adults when we realize, no, no, that's actually what makes me so creative. And my mind being so active is something that is beneficial to me. How can I make that work for me? So that's really where it comes down to. And that's what meditation and hypnosis can do. But so many people with that active brain, it's like that paradox. They think, oh, it's not for me because I can't quiet. I can't quiet myself. But it's not really about quieting yourself, or like I said, it's not about like, well, you have to do it this way or have to pay attention. It's about allowing your mind to just wander. It's literally like freedom for your ADHD brain when you really look at it that way, because you're just going, hey, do what you want, man. Like, we're just going to kind of go on this 30-minute journey or however long you decide to meditate or do hypnosis for, and take the pressure off yourself. There's nothing that you're supposed to be accomplishing. And that's where that magic can happen. That's where most people get their most creative downloads. And that's why meditation is so powerful for creatives, because you are giving yourself a break. You're giving yourself permission to just be. And so, yes, people with hyperfocus can, and because perfectionism also goes online with that, right? Like,
Yes.
oh, I've been taught that I'm supposed to do this. And so, no, it's not about being the best at, meditating or being the best at hypnosis. It's about just allowing your mind to do what it wants to do for a few minutes and see where it takes you and get curious about what comes up and then go from there. Does that make sense?
I feel relaxed just hearing you say it.
Well, that's the good benefit of both of those things, right? Is the relaxation that you get from it. My husband is like probably the most creative person I think I've ever come into contact with. He is completely all right brain and, writer, director, actor. He is constantly thinking about things. ADHD, off the charts, didn't get diagnosed until he was an adult. Everything made sense once he did, his whole childhood. And that's something that's really helped him. It was really difficult for him to start meditating because again, it's like you've got to at least just be in that place. And it's so hard when you're super active. So what works for him is right in the morning, like right even before he gets out of bed. Like for me, and you have to find what works for you. For me, when I wake up, my alarm goes off. I'm up. My brain is awake. There's no like easing out of that for me. I'm like, oh, we got to go. And I am up and out of bed like immediately. Not him. It takes him a good 45 minutes to like come out of this because he goes really, really deep when he does sleep and then he has to come out of it. So he puts in his earbuds immediately. When the alarm goes off, he puts in a meditation or a hypnosis and he will wake up to that, which is really, really cool for him because then he's like, oh, okay, I didn't have to make time for this. It's already happening. I'm already relaxed. And it really sets the tone for his day. So that's a really good little tip if you find yourself not being able to carve out time or finding like, some downtime during your day to meditate or do hypnosis. Do it as you wake up if you can.
Man, that's beautiful. And when I'm hearing you say all that with your husband, my wife, it like is exactly the same way. Super creative, ADHD, like always on the go, got to make things happen. And then on the flip side of that, I'm the type of guy, I mean, you and talk about this behind the scenes is go slow to go fast. So like, I'm like, let's go, let's go, let's go. And I used to think meditation, you know, and slowing down and doing some of these things, breath work. I'm like, why? Like, I don't get it. Like, no, I got to go do this email. I got to go make this sales call. I got to go do this podcast, And then I soon realized I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm getting older. Right. And why, like how I was 5-10 years ago when I had, the energy, my head down and it all made sense. Then now here we go, 5-10-15 years later. I'm like, I feel like I'm in the rat race. I feel like I'm doing the same thing over and over and over, which to a certain degree, you got to have that for success. But what you're saying is when you meditate, when you listen to these frequencies, the hypnosis and do these different things, right? It's like, to me, it brings you to a whole nother like mindset, in spirit, and it allows you to just level up, right? Like kind of like what we're saying. And so with all this being said, my wife will listen to this, and I know there's a lot of other individuals out there that'll feel the same way. It's like, okay, Rene, okay, Sean, you and I get it. I just need to slow down to go fast. I need to meditate. I need to do all these things.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we? Do you know that answer? Like, why don't
Oh,
we
yeah.
why don't we do that?
I know the answer. Yeah, it's the inner saboteur, your own worst enemy. You can name it all kinds of different things, right? It's just your unconscious mind. You have to realize that your unconscious mind, its only job is to keep you alive. That's it. Its only job is safety. Okay? So, it is perceiving meditation, anything different, anything that's going to get you into a different place, anything that's going to get you to level up as unsafe because you've never done it before.
Wow.
So if it's perceived as unsafe, it's going to run from it. And it's going to tell you, you don't need to go to the gym today. You don't need to meditate today. Like you can have that cookie, whatever it is, right? It's all like it's pulling you back to safety because it's literally just trying to keep you alive. It doesn't realize you have to think about your unconscious mind as a child because it really is. It's like a 7-year-old. It's like you at 7.
Yeah.
And so if you think about it in those terms, it's like, I want it now, right? Like how kids are, right? So you got to like really personify it to sometimes to like make sense of it. And when you do that, when you realize that, oh, you're just trying to keep me safe. Thank you. You can really sort of switch that perspective and look at it through a different lens, reframe it. Because if it's just trying to keep you safe, it's nothing to fight against. It's just you trying to stay alive. So the first thing you can do is just stop and look at it and go, thank you so much. And I have had these conversations with myself in my closet many times, like come to Jesus moment with myself, like, hey, listen, I know this is scary. I know that, you think that this is going to hurt us, but I got this. Everything is fine. We're safe. So you have to be the one to drive the car. You have to step in and go, I know this feels unsafe, but this is the new reality that I want to go into. This is what is going to be good for us. This is going to get us to level up. And so the more you do that, the more you rewire it and teach your unconscious mind that, oh no, this is safe. This is fine. We're not going to die. It literally is just that simple. But you have to be willing to work with it. That's the key.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes sense because we have all the information. Like, and when you look at the information to be successful or to have a great relationship or to eat good food, we know what it is. To be healthy, you eat good food. It's very simple.
Exactly.
Meat, vegetables, nuts, little fruit, if that's your jam, if you want to be vegetarian or keto or whatever, we have the information, but we can't follow it. And then we have all the blueprints. Like we could just Google it right now. Hey, what do you need to have a successful business? There'd be 10 steps that could take you to infinite amount of money and success, but no one, it feels like people stare at that and it's like this dread, this feeling. A robot looks at that and it just executes, right? Of course, it doesn't have the human element that you need in business, but if it just did the steps, it could just do them. But we don't, because there's this, what you just said is the only thing that can make sense is that we're afraid of something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wild. And I heard something the other day, I think it was Alex Ramosi had said that we're not afraid of failure, which we probably are to some degree. We're more afraid of people seeing us fail. It's people seeing, because we don't want to be judged, we don't want to be excommunicated, laughed at, embarrassed, all that, would you say a lot of that plays into that, as far as other people? Because everything we're talking about is internal, it's you having conversation with the 7-year-old. It's not really the people out here. Or is it an element of that? Is it the 7-year-old getting judged by them? Yeah. Is all that?
Yeah, I mean, like one of our core sort of, human needs, I guess, if you want to call it that, is that need to be accepted. It's sort of like human psychology, right? And it goes back to very primal things. If you're not accepted by the tribe, you die. So it really all comes down to you like trying to stay alive, literally, and getting away from the saber-toothed tiger and whatever. And so we are, our brains, like that part of our brain is that's why they call it the lizard brain, because it is very old. And we have these evolved conscious brains now, but again, that's not running the show most of the time. It's still that lizard brain that has all these like very prehistoric things built into it. And that's why all of that stuff feels really unsafe. And so, yeah, I mean, the fear of being perceived is a really big one I see all the time from creatives. It's like, oh, I don't want to put myself out there. I can't do it because somebody might judge me, might, whatever.
Yeah.
And it all comes down to not being accepted, not being loved. That's really the bottom line.
I'm an Enneagram 3, and I don't know if you've ever done the Enneagram before.
Oh, yeah.
It's a 3 is an achiever, and we achieve at all costs. If we don't achieve, we're not worth anything. So all our value is an achievement, which if I didn't know that, I mean, I would have just kept going down that road. And then I'd always wonder, I get to these mountaintops and I'm like, well, there's nothing here, so I'm going to go to that mountaintop because that one's higher and it's the next thing to achieve. But it would be a constant just slew of winning these things and then just feeling miserable, like depressed afterwards and not understanding why. And that's my personality type tied in with that. Like, well, you said you knew the Enneagram. Do you know your number or what?
Oh yeah. I'm a 7 wing 8. So some days my 8 shows up a little bit higher, a little bit stronger than others, but I'm definitely a 7. Yeah.
Yeah, Sean is an 8, and powerhouses in business, like across the board. It seems like.
Yeah, like I said, sometimes my 8 will drive the show a little bit more, and that's totally fine. Sometimes it needs to, but at the heart of it, I'm definitely a 7. And I find when I lean more into my 7, the happier and more fulfilled that I am. Like if I just okay, stop being so go driven. But also, have you guys looked into human design? Because that has been really big
What is
I have
that?
learned from me. I don't know if you've had anybody on the show who's a human design
What is
specialist.
that?
Okay,
What
you
is,
definitely should have someone on the show. And I have some people I can recommend to you who are human
please?
design readers. Fascinating. And I'm not an expert, so I don't want to like butcher the explanation of it, but I like to look at all these things as like tools in our self-awareness tool belt. And the more self-aware that we are, the better business owners we're going to be, because your business
100%.
is a reflection of how you feel.
Yes.
And it's a mirror. So whatever is showing up for yourself in your personal life, it's going to show up in business. So if you're having, clients who are constantly coming to you saying, "Oh, why are you so expensive?" and they're going to be complaining about price, that's a mirror for what's going on with you. That's a mirror for your own unworthiness showing up. But
Yes.
anyway, I digress.
Super powerful what you just said. That is so true. Sean, would you not, like, with everything we've experienced and all the business that you've done, like, is that not true, man? I'm listening to you today. I'm like, first off, I'm going to buy your hypnosis tape as soon as it's done. I'm going to download that or whatever, because I think that's brilliant. But everything you said right there, and even it's funny, number of the people in the paid mastermind group are sevens. A lot of them.
Oh yeah,
Now.
many entrepreneurs are sevens. It's
Yeah.
hilarious. And I mean, think about it. We got to be a little wild to want to run our own business, right? Like,
Oh, yeah.
but it's fun. And that's the thing. Like, the more you can lean, if you're a seven, the more you lean into your fun, the more like fun and like wealth you're going to have. I promise. It's like textbook. So yeah, I think that, leaning into that is really important, but the human design stuff has been very interesting. So there's 5 energy types, and, your energy type, it's kind of like the Enneagram, but like on steroids. And there's a lot of different resources you can go to, to just kind of get your chart to find out what your energy type is. But I'm a generator, and a human design generator, and Ewan, you're probably a manifesting generator, I would say.
Okay.
Sean, you're probably a generator. I don't know if those are true. I'm just from spending a little bit of time with you guys, I probably would say those two. I'd be interested to find out what your type is. But a generator, we're one of the more common energy types, and we make our own energy. Like, I can work if I'm doing something I love, which is what I do every day, left to my own devices, I can work from sunup to sundown and have the best time doing it. And I'm so productive, and I blow through so much work, and I go to sleep, and I sleep, and I rest, and like I do it the next day. I can do it over and over again. But what happens is we say yes to too many things because we're good at a lot of things. We have this natural ability to just pick things up. Manifesting generators are the same way. And we just say, yes, I can do that. Yes, I can do that. And pretty soon we've said yes to all these things that are just probably not in alignment because, we want to have that achievement, and then we get burnt out. And so our, sort of lesson there is to really listen to our body and say, is this a yes or a no? Like, your mind might be telling you it's a yes, but what's your body telling you? And that's really important because we will run ourselves into the ground
Yes.
if we're not
Yes.
careful. So yeah, anybody listening, if you haven't looked into your human design, I find it super fascinating. And there's a lot of you could Google it and find a lot of really good resources online. Yeah, it's really
I can't
fun.
wait. I'm totally doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. Hearing you say that, I'm like, man, okay. I thought we've done all the assessments, all the disc profiles, but apparently we haven't. You and so we got to get on top of it.
There's never enough.
Even
Yeah.
human design,
We
know
found
we're
in the
wrong.
mastermind groups doing it with other people and hearing doing it together as a group of other
Oh,
men
yeah.
or women, man, you get
Yeah.
a whole different, deeper level with those people because you're getting to see the bit of their soul, and it's not often you get to even express that. So when you're doing it together, you get to a whole deeper level of connection, and it's been phenomenal for us. So we haven't done that one, so that's definitely on the list
Yeah.
to do.
I have had human design experts come into my mastermind and teach on it because, again, like I know a lot about it, and I know enough about it. The reason I love it is because, and Enneagram, all of those things, is I'm a better coach when I know how that person is going to learn. Everyone has their own map of the world, their own perspective. So I want to meet them where they are. That's how we're going to get the fastest change. Like we were saying before, things can happen quicker when you're working with someone who is in tune with where you are. So they can meet you where you are and then pull you to where you really want to go. You just get results faster. So I like to pull my clients' human design charts just so I can get a basic sort of read of like, okay, I'm dealing with a projector. That's a whole different person than a generator. And they're an Enneagram, 7, whatever. So it's really insightful for me, but I am not going to teach on it. I am not going to go and get my certification in that, right? So I will get other experts to come into my mastermind group and teach my group about that. And like you said, really get in there and do this work of finding that out. And it's really fun to do that with a high level group like that. We just had a retreat in January where they all came out to LA, and we had like a whole intensive day of that. And I had someone come in and do sound healing and meditation, and some just really amazing things happen when in person like that as
Yes.
well, which is
Yeah.
just so, so powerful. So yeah.
My final thought as we wrap things up, Rene, this has kind of been on my mind as I hear you talk. Do you know who Robin Sharma is? Robin Sharma?
That sounds familiar, but doesn't no.
He wrote the 5 a.m. Club, and he's got a book. It's called The Manifesto Hero. Anyways, like, I'm an avid fan of
Oh,
him. He
yeah.
talks about productivity, efficiency, and everything that
Yeah.
we're talking about, right? Meditation and designing the life that you want to live. So on a scale of 1 to 10, I've got a question for you, and
Mhm.
even the listeners that are listening, I want them to dissect it in their own life. So a 10 being like world-class life, 1 being like, nope, I'm not living the life I want to live. What would you say your number would be
Right now at this point in my life,
right now at this point in your life?
right, like right now? Okay. Um, hmm, honestly, I would say an 8.
It's a good
Beautiful.
number.
7.5, 8.
That
Yeah.
that's a great number, right? And I can receive that just in the 40 minutes that we've spent, right? And Ewan knows this. I don't only listen to what people say, but I watch their actions too, and their body language and how they show up and the things that they're doing in their lives.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious with you on your on being an 8, right? Somebody listening to this that might be at a 4 or even a 3 or a 5. How would what would be one thing you tell them to do to bump that up to a 5 or a 6 so they can start working towards living the life that they want to live and design, like you at an 8?
Yeah. I think that it's really important, and something I wish I would have known when I was younger, when my kids were younger, when there was a lot of chaos, and because everybody's at varying degrees of that in their lives, depending on where they are, um, is that feeling happy and feeling good in your body is like the key. And I know that sounds really like
Yeah, no,
That's
it
spot
is.
simple,
on. That's spot on. That's
but
spot on. That's the answer right there.
you, yeah, like you have, if you feel good, you're going to have so much better results. And so it's not about spiritually bypassing and being like, I'm fine, and disassociating. It's not about that. It's about getting real with yourself and like doing all the things that we were just talking about, like just looking at the stuff that's not right and choosing to feel better. Because there's so many ways that you can do that. Because then you can just take those incremental steps and get there. And it is like a snowball effect when you do
Yeah.
that, right?
Yeah. Spiral up.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Well said. You have any
Beautiful.
final thoughts before we wrap things up?
Man, I could listen to you all day, Rene. Seriously, I'm going to go get the hypnosis thing. And man, you're one of my favorite. We have a lot of guests, and I've loved all our guests, but you're one of my favorite people being on the show.
Aw,
Just
thank
so
you.
knowledgeable. You get it. You totally get it. Like, I don't think business owners or people, just anything in success, you can only be as successful as you allow yourself to be. Like, you are the block in your success, right? And you talk
Oh, yeah.
nothing about everything about just removing the blocks, and then the limits are endless at that point. So
Oh,
people
yeah.
are like, why are my business not growing? Why am I not in better shape? Well, because of you. It's not the market. It's not your business plan. It is you and everything that you revolve around. So if you elevate this, then you can be whatever you want to be. And that's what you talk about. So I could listen to it all day.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, no, I have a free hypnosis too. People can, you guys can grab. So I'll
Awesome. Very
send you
cool.
that link.
All right.
Yeah.
Final two questions. First, we just want to thank you here at Level Up and Live. Thank you for the time, energy, and effort with being us today. And I know we didn't get to connect a month or two ago, but thank you for rebooking with us today. So we appreciate you
Yeah,
being
of
here.
course.
Very grateful for your time to spend with us. I know it's been invaluable for our listeners and audience. So I'm excited to go back and listen to it a couple of times. And outside of that, how can our listeners, how can we at Level Up and Live in our community support you?
Oh, thank you. I've loved being here. You guys are awesome, and I love your show too. So it's been a pleasure. I'm kind of everywhere, just Rene Bowen across the board, right? Like, so renebowen.com. And that's like my main site. So you can find information there. But I'm very active on Instagram at Rene Bowen, and I'm always in my DMs. So I'm happy to chat with people there. And I'm on TikTok, Rene_Bowen. So I do run, groups. I have one-on-one coaching. I have a podcast as well called Tried and True with a Dash of Woo. So yeah, I'll send those links to everybody. You guys can connect with me wherever you like. I would be happy to welcome you to any of my spaces. If you're a photographer, I've got a free group as well. So yeah, just connect with me and I'll send you to the right place.
Fantastic. We'll also put that in the show notes too for our listeners to go and easy access
Awesome.
there. Second question and final question is, what does Level Up and Live mean to you?
Yeah. I mean, everything that we've been talking about basically is just being my best and highest expression of myself. And for me, what that really looks like is how am I showing up for myself and other people in my life? Like, how connected am I? How connected am I to my source, to my higher self, to my family? Am I leading with my heart, or am I up here the whole time, right? Like, so the more I'm leading with my heart and listening to those pieces instead of all the head trash, that for me is what I strive to do. And how can I just be my best self so that I can help other people be their best selves?
I love that.
Love it. Beautifully said. Well, thanks again, Rene.
Thanks,
And
guys.
we end the call with saying, level up and live.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yes.
Thanks, Rene. Level Up and Live. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Yes.
That concludes another exciting episode of the Level Up and Live podcast. A huge thank you to our guest, Rene, for spending time with us today in the virtual studio. If you've enjoyed our conversation with Rene, be sure to subscribe to the podcast for more insightful interviews. Don't forget to leave us a review. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok for more content. And share this episode with a friend who's ready to level up in their life and career. Until next time, remember, success isn't just about what you accomplish. It's about how you inspire others along the way. Level up and live. Let's go.